So welcome everybody. This is our second San Jose Spotlight Election Reader panel, and I think we had some great conversations going. The last one, which was back 2 weeks ago, and I know we were all able to read the follow-up story that Eli wrote.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for your contributions. And so what we wanted to do for the second one, again, we have two members who are who include both Shane and Gary, who couldn't join us for the first one. So if you both want to start and just let me pull up the agenda, kind of just introduce yourself and why you joined the election reader panel and really what you want to get out of this experience.
Which of us should go first? We can, Gary, if you want, or I'll go. Thank you. So I'm Shane Patrick Honnelly. I am, just a little background, I was a chief of staff at City Hall, currently looking for work. So I guess I would be among the unemployed. I'm a Republican, chairman of the Republican Party in Santa Clara County. And so I may have a little different perspective on some things, but I appreciate the diversity of the panel and the various perspectives. As far as I did catch up on the last session, watched your presentations, so got a little feel for what others' concerns are. I'll just name a couple of mine that are top of mind: homelessness and crime here in our city. I'm also part of the LGBT community. I should note, on the first day of Pride Month. Let's see what else going on. Oh yeah, so homelessness and crime are big on my list. This morning, in fact, my roommate started to bike to work yesterday, and his second day was today. And the bike now has a flat front tire because he was attacked by a pit bull along the Guadalupe River Trail. And so, letting people live in our public spaces and occupy them is not a good solution. Anyway, a couple things I'm looking for in candidates. I want people who are going to be careful with our tax dollars and also prioritize them to the biggest needs in our community. So I guess that's a quick rundown.
Sure. And then also, Shane, do you also want to share why you decided to join our election reader panel and what you're hoping to get from this process?
Yes. Just a couple things is I always appreciate Spotlight's effort to include a diversity of voices because, and from what I heard from the first presentations, there's definitely a diverse group here that thinks differently about different issues. I think it's important for us to hear those perspectives because you can't really solve problems well without hearing from different perspectives. And so I'm just looking forward to hearing those perspectives as we continue on, and to lend mine to the discussion and be able to help our fellow readers inform them as the election period goes forward here.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Shane, for sharing. And Gary, can you also introduce yourself and also share why you decided to join the reader panel and what you hope to get out of this process?
Yeah, hello everybody. I am Gary Johnson, and I am I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for more than 30 years. I currently work as a nursing professor at Evergreen Valley College. During the pandemic, I also did immunizations and I did lots of testing. And I'm also the academic senate president at Evergreen College. And I also come from a mixed background. I lived most of my early life on reservations. My mother is First Nations and my father is mixed race. So I have an unusual perspective in that way. And I joined the panel because I I've lived in San Jose almost 20 years, and I've seen a deterioration in the quality of our community. And I'm just interested to hear about solutions and what other people are thinking are solutions. I come from a health and education perspective, and so I know from my previous experiences some of the things that have worked and some of the things that haven't worked. And I'm also a bit weary of politicians who continue to just define the problem but don't actually do anything about it. And I'm also quite weary of career politicians. So I'm hoping to get make some friends maybe. I'm always looking for new friends, and I'm also interested in what my community is doing to address some of the very serious problems I think that have escalated over the years from the inactivity of our politicians. And then politically, I think I grew up sort of in, again, a mixed family. My dad was very sort of Republican. My mom was much more Democrat. And I tended to be much more centrist in a way. I tended to lean towards my mom's opinion a lot more than my dad's. But I find that as time has gone on and the inability of our politicians to solve these problems, I've become much more of a centrist. So I'm often undecided on many issues until I hear a good solution. That's a little bit about me.
Interesting. Wow, thank you, Gary, for sharing. And then with that, we'd like to just go around the Zoom room, and if everyone wants to just introduce himself, just real quickly, take a few seconds to introduce yourself and then just your affiliation. Maybe we'll start with Carmen.
Sure. Hi, I'm Carmen Brammer, and I'm a longtime resident of San Jose, and I have a bunch of different community-based organizations I'm part of, specifically Black Leadership Kitchen Cabinet, Santa Clara County Single Payer Healthcare, Indivisible San Jose, and Solidarity Sunday San Jose.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carmen. Do you want to call on somebody?
Sure. We'll go with Vincente or Vincente.
Vicente.
Okay.
Thanks, Carmen. My name is Vicente. I am born and raised in Santa Clara. The hospital where I was born, right across from Central Park, torn down for condominiums. So when I tell people where I was born, I usually just point at the sky. They take a minute, but they get there eventually. I am an immigration law practitioner for a faith-based nonprofit out of San Jose, focusing mainly on affirmative relief for working class families. My interest in the reader panel stemmed from the district attorney's race and local politics, especially in Santa Clara and San Jose. Oh, I'll call on, let's see, who hasn't gone yet? Don.
Thank you. Don Gagliardi. I'm also an attorney, downtown resident, live in District 3. I previously ran for office in 2014 for District 3 council person. I don't think I mentioned it last time. I have no interest in running again. That's not why I'm participating, but I am obviously interested in San Jose civic affairs. I am taking this call on my cell phone, so I don't see anyone else. So I have no one specific to call on. I only see Vicente in my screen. So Vicente, you want to call on someone else as well?
Yeah, sure. Let me get Lisa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Charpentier, and I'm a mom. We homeschool in our family, and a landscape designer. And I collaborate with Climate Reality Silicon Valley and Mothers Out Front for climate actions. And we live in downtown San Jose. And let's see, how about Shane?
I think Alex is the last one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. Not a problem. Thanks, Lisa.
Hey everyone, good to be back with you again today. My name is Alex Shore. I'll introduce myself a little differently than last time. I grew up in a suburb of Silicon Valley and moved away for college and work and grad school. Got to live in amazing American cities like Nashville, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., New York, Anchorage, Alaska, if you can believe it, LA, San Francisco, and then San Jose. I moved back here in about 2013. And just got to see some amazing places across the country and how other cities work and how they don't work. And it inspired me to get more involved in how the city of San Jose is developing and providing housing. So the work I do now is a lot about how do we create great places? How do we build community? How do we make sure everyone can afford to live here? Because we have an amazing community and we've got some big issues that hopefully are going to be addressed during this, actually after the candidates are elected and once they're in office. So again, excited to be back here with y'all.
Great. Thank you, Alex, for sharing. So yeah, and just another friendly reminder. So this meeting is recorded, just like all of our reader panel meetings, and everything we say will be on record and could be used in Eli's follow-up stories. So just a friendly reminder. And then also you should have received the calendar invites for the remainder of the meetings, the election panel meetings. They'll all fall on Wednesday afternoons at this time, Wednesday at noon. The next one will be in 2 weeks. Oh, sorry, they're all on the calendar. I think actually the next one is don't quote me on this, maybe the day after election day. At any rate, so you received them all throughout the course of the year. Actually, I have the calendar here. Yeah, excuse me, in 2 weeks. There'll be Wednesday, June 15th. There's a midway check-in for the general election. That will be on Wednesday, October 12th. And then right before the general election on Wednesday, November 2nd. And then a debrief of the general election on Wednesday, November 16th. So that wraps up kind of our housekeeping items today. And with that, Eli, again, our senior reporter, who's done a terrific job here at San Jose Spotlight over the last year. And of course, did an amazing job last week with you all and kind of leading you through the discussion. Eli, if you'd like to take it away and walk us through today's questions.
Yeah, happy to, Josh. One quick thing. I think Carmen asked if we could blow up the questions a little bit. Could you increase the font size or zoom in maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. How does this look?
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, much better.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we can just dive right in. As you can see, the first question is, with Election Day just 6 days away, how confident do you feel in making decisions on the candidates and measures? And what unanswered questions do you have about the people and measures on your ballot? And let's start with one of the new guys. Gary, why don't you go ahead?
I don't feel really confident about the decisions that I'm making. I kind of feel like a lot of the information that I want has not yet reached my ears. I was able to make it out to one mayoral debate or whatever they call them, presentation, and so I really want much more information about that. The measures, I got this thing in the mail the other day from I think the sort of overall union group, and they were suggesting that I vote a specific way on some of the measures, but some of the measures really asking for extended term limits and things like that for water district people just seemed like they fly in the face of what I believe basically. So I just want more information about that. So no, I don't feel like I'm fully prepared.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And Shane, how about you next?
Well, there was a lot to think through. And one of those things is strategy-wise, we want somebody to get to the runoff in November. And there are a variety of candidates, and say there's two candidates that are close to one's views. Does one vote for which of the two you think is best, or the one you think will make it to the runoff realistically? Because if neither makes it to the runoff, then your views won't be represented, for example. So, so there's some strategic thinking that has gone into my decision-making process, as well as beyond the issues themselves. I think on the measures, I have quite a bit of information on those. I'm with Gary on measure A, and I think it's dishonest the way the ballot measure was written by the board majority. They basically made it sound like, oh, look, we're putting term limits on. And no, they're not putting term limits on, they're adding a term, and which is explained in the voter information guide. But some of these things can be misleading. And then the ads can be misleading. We've seen a number of very misleading, and actually some were just plain wrong, ads launched against some of the candidates unfortunately by the South Bay Labor Council. And that was pointed out in articles in a couple news sources recently.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And Carmen.
So I am similar to both Gary and Shane. I have some things I feel really strongly about that I'm like, I can make a vote, I can vote on it today, but I am still also looking, I'm attending more forums for all the various candidates. There's still quite a few forums. I have attended a few myself. I'm gonna listen to some of them that I wasn't able to make, but I'm on the fence about, I'm not 100% confident. I'm probably like 50% confident right now, which is not a good thing because it's only 6 days away. But a lot of it is because as I go to these forums, I hear electoral spiel. I just hear political jargon still being said. I still hear the same things that's been said before, just packaged differently. And many of these folks who are running right now have been in the political arena for many, many years. So I am just still continue to be surprised that in spite of all that has happened, where folks are showing, where the community is showing that we want a different way for things to be governed. We want a much more inclusive governing body that represents all the voices in our city. I'm still hearing the same old messages, and I feel like they're not listening to community. And so I am concerned about that. So it's going to be interesting as I come down to the wire here on what my final selections are going to be.
Gotcha, thanks. Vicente, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with the comments on Measure A. I thought that the wording was a bit too quick to really convey the purpose accurately. So we spent some time looking into that measure a bit more closely. In terms of the candidates, though, I've already voted. I did the mail-in. So there was a lot of time going on Ballotpedia, picking up the websites, reading the bios, looking at the issues. I read every one, even the candidates nobody's ever heard of, or the independent candidate not running with any party affiliation. I give everybody their fair shake before I make my choice. But I thought that the one issue where I was right away ready to vote yes was Measure D out of Santa Clara to comply with the ongoing voter rights litigation. Just one of the reasons that I'm frustrated with my city's government right now. This issue has been going on for years now, trying to get in compliance and more representation on city council. So I'm hoping that the measure is successful and we can finally put this issue to rest.
Gotcha. Thanks, Vicente. Lisa, how about you?
My family has been researching how we want to vote for quite a few months now, and like Vicente, we read all about the different candidates and the measures, and we watched many debates. We would set hours at a time aside to kind of help us to determine how we were going to vote. And with a couple of candidates, we thought we knew how we wanted to vote, but we still had some questions about certain specific aspects of what their intentions were. And so just recently, within the past couple of days, Sajid Khan very willingly, very kindly offered an hour of his time to talk to us directly and really deeply go over what his plans are. And I'm very grateful to that, because that really helped to get beyond just what you hear and the minimal amount you can hear in a debate, or what you hear other people saying, or a newspaper article. So that was very helpful. And also Omar Torres, he stopped by our house because he's been going door to door. And likewise, he was very willing to offer his time and go over specific questions that we had. So that was helpful. Although I've already placed my votes, there's one race that I wasn't quite confident about. I wasn't particularly excited about any of the candidates. But with all the research that I did, I felt like my vote was as best researched as possible, and just hoping that this person can collaborate with others to make some positive changes.
Gotcha. Thanks, Lisa. And Alex.
Yeah, made sense. I think when I was filling out my ballot, the challenges were, how shall I put this? Some of the lesser seen statewide offices. I think figuring out who was the right candidate for those was a little trickier. And I think, yeah, I'm just sort of interested to see how much the voters see this as sort of a change election in San Jose and Santa Clara County, and go with candidates who want to do things differently versus the same, and which candidates are the change candidates. I think that's also up for debate, and it's been really interesting to see that dialogue occur.
Gotcha. Thank you. And last, Donald.
Yeah, so I've already voted as well. I felt confident on a number of my selections, and where I did not feel confident, I omitted making a vote. And I think the lesser statewide offices are some that I did not vote on, because I didn't feel like I understood the difference between the candidates, and I'm leery of doing it just on the voter pamphlet. But on those, I felt confident I did vote. And again, I'm in District 3. I voted for Elizabeth Chen Hale. She's one of the 5 District 3 candidates. I mentioned the last session that the most significant issue to me is ending the COVID mandates. And I put that issue to every candidate I spoke to. And Elizabeth Chen Hale was the only one willing to speak publicly and say that the mandates need to end. I have to say that I also think she is probably among the most qualified of the candidates. She's a neighborhood activist, which is very important to me. That's my background in getting involved in civic affairs. She heads up the Downtown Residents Association, and she's also independent. I agree with Gary. I'm weary of candidates that come with a lot of baggage and longtime history with either one political party or one organization. There seems to be a divide here. You know, these city council is a nonpartisan office, but we seem to have a bipolar situation where we have labor and what was the Chamber of Commerce. Now I call it the Licardo Party. And so that seems to be the divide, labor and Licardo. And I think we need, if we're going to do things differently, we should try to look outside those two bipolar opposites, which come with a long line of baggage and not being able to resolve the issue. So Elizabeth Chen Hale is one of the independent candidates, and that's why I supported her. I was supportive of Jeff Rosen. I've known him for a while. I think he's a very good and decent man. It's interesting because I view him as on the left side of the spectrum, but apparently he's not sufficiently left these days. But I do think he's a good and decent man and has done a good job as the district attorney.
Okay, thank you. So moving on then, and I apologize, a couple of you have already answered this, but could you just raise your hands if you've already voted? Okay, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think.
Mine's sealed and ready to be delivered. It's like I voted, but it hasn't shown up anywhere yet or been dropped off, but it will be.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, for those who have voted, I mean, can you just talk a little bit about who you voted for and why? And maybe Alex, you want to kick it off?
Sure. I voted for my incumbent state assembly member, although it looks like my assembly district changed, although I don't remember that. It went from Ash Kalra to Evan Lowe. So I voted for him. I was super excited about Alex Padilla being selected as the US Senator for our state by the governor. I thought he was far and away the most balanced and qualified candidate. So I'm excited to vote for him. I think on our ballot twice, right, y'all? He was on there twice. So I think he's really represents the future of California. And I think he's been great as a US Senator so far. So I was excited about him. In terms of the mayor's race, I talked a little bit about housing and homelessness, or a lot about them last time. I think in the mayor's race, again, I'm looking for someone who's focused on equity. A lot of the issues that we talk about are related to this. I really resonated with me when Shane talked about his roommate being attacked by a dog along the trail today. I think a lot of that has to do, again, with homelessness and equity. We just have, even though it's a blessing, it sometimes feels like a curse. We have a tech sector that pays people incredibly well, and that creates 4 jobs in the service sector for every tech worker there is. And those folks just don't make enough money to be able to live here. And the COVID pandemic exacerbated the inequality in our community and our homelessness and that divide. So I think just paying people better and more and having a good social safety net to protect those who fall in the cracks is really important. And I want some kind of transformative leadership. I want someone who's really going to do big things for our city. So, and then there are other things I look for. So someone who likes people, who's good at building relationships, who takes initiative. And so all those reasons is why I'm supporting Supervisor Chavez for mayor. It was really a hard decision because I know all the other 3 candidates, one of whom is a friend of mine. So it was very, very tough, but ultimately I think we need someone with Mayor Liccardo's focus on housing and building as much housing as possible. And we need a little bit more of a focus on equity in our next mayor to make this community a place where everyone can still afford to live and thrive. So that was definitely a tough decision for me. My council race wasn't up. My supervisorial race wasn't up. Any others I'm missing, Eli, or that you want to ask about?
No, I think those were it. I mean, did you, I don't remember if you mentioned the sheriff's race or DA.
Yeah, I mean, that was tough. Even though I used to work for the county and work very closely with the sheriff's office, I don't know any of the candidates and haven't met them, haven't learned that much about them. So I had a harder time picking out who might be a fit. And I do feel like there might be need for a change in the sheriff's office. So someone who's farther removed from the existing administration could be a good fit for some change. So that was something I was thinking about as I was voting for that.
Gotcha, thank you. Vicente, did you have your hand up too?
Yeah, sure, I can go next. So I had a theme with my ballot, and that was anti-incumbent. I hardly voted for the incumbent in any of the races. And then I wasn't a good Democrat either. I don't really have a lot to be excited about from the party. So I voted across the board, no party preference, green, peace and freedom, people who articulated a platform that I could get behind. In terms of races where I didn't vote for the incumbent, governor, senator, didn't vote for the incumbent. District attorney did not vote for the incumbent. Let's see. I have a sample ballot in front of me just to make sure that I'm categorizing the races appropriately. And then let's see, state senator. Also, that was a race that I was really excited about. Aisha Wahab. I think she's an outstanding candidate. She's really down to earth, humble, really has a lot of experience going in, representative of a community in the greater South Bay area that hasn't seen political representation in a while. So I think that I'm really excited to see what she's going to do with that office if she wins. Races where I did vote for the incumbent, state superintendent and lieutenant governor. And then in the sheriff's race and the supervisor race, I did not vote for any of the candidates presented because I did not feel confident in my choices.
Gotcha. And did you have someone in your council district you're voting for?
Council district, no, we just had the measure to create districts and establish a 30-day residency requirement, Measure D. Everything else was mostly state and local elected office. There was no city council race.
Gotcha. Okay. Lisa, did you say you also voted?
I did. So after Sajid Khan spent an hour talking with me on the phone after picking up his kids in the evening, he very graciously answered all of my questions, and some of the things that people are concerned about with him, that he's coming from a public defender's background, that he might not fairly address crime, or that he might not be able to remedy crime that we've had. He definitely may be comfortable with the position that he's going to take. He addressed victims' rights. He addressed making big changes. I've seen what the current DA's office looks like, and my experience has not been good with it. And so he has plans to make changes that address victims' rights, but also that it's going to be more fair, so that people of color are not being discriminated against and getting higher terms, higher sentences than others might be. For my district, District 3, I also spoke with Omar Torres, and his views were very much in line with my views. I think that his willingness to reach out to the community and to really explore collaborations. So much when I reach out to city and county services, I see that one department doesn't interact well with another department. They don't know what one another is doing, and they don't have collaborations where I would think that they obviously would. He spoke to really trying to collaborate more, and that would be his way of addressing his commitments for his campaign. So I felt comfortable voting for him. I decided to vote for Cindy Chavez for mayor. This was the election, the mayor's was the one that I had the hardest time voting for. There were a few that I was looking at, but I think Cindy Chavez is going to be the one who will do the best job addressing climate issues. She also seems to be very fair, community minded. So I decided to vote for her. I researched the assessor's office race because I didn't know that much about it. And I thought Andrew Crockett's approach to using the inventory, the housing inventory of the assessor's office to diagnose and remedy the housing crisis that we have in our county, I thought that was a fresh approach. And so I was willing to support that. He seems intelligent and like he has good background and good intentions to expand the power that this office could have. Shall I go on, or?
Sure,
Yeah.
you want to name, I'm trying to think of which one you didn't have. Did you mention sheriff's office yet?
Sheriff's office. I really appreciated the way Christine Nagaye was responding to the recent gun violence in the country. I think that she has a lot of compassion. I think that she will be fair to all groups of people, and I think she's looking to make changes. And even though she's already a part of the system, I have trust that she'll do a good job.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And then Don, I think that you mentioned a couple of races you'd already voted in, but do you want to just give us a quick rundown of any local ones that you voted in?
So sure, I forgot that the assessor was up, so I voted for Larry Stone, who I know is a good guy. I know he's been there a long time. I don't get the sense that the assessor's office is broken, so I saw no need to vote against him or think of an alternative candidate. And again, I do know him personally, and so I think he's a good person. And I said before, again, the COVID mandates are my top issue, and I take the approach to voting, unlike Shane, who's very strategic. I vote for what I want, even if I think I'm not going to get it, as opposed to voting for what I don't want, simply because they're the winning horse. So I think it was Eugene Debs, the old socialist candidate for president a century ago, who said, vote for what you want, even though you might not get it. And for mayor, that's a prelude. For mayor, I voted for Jim Spence, who is not going to win. Is not going to come close to winning, but he took the pledge, no more COVID mandates. And that's the most important issue to me. So I'm going to be open to backing someone else in the runoff because I know Jim's not going to get through. I am concerned about all the candidates who are the top four who are running, because all of them come with baggage, which is a concern to me. And I know them all more or less personally. I don't know Mahan, but I know the rest of them. So I'm going to be open in the runoff to see who's willing to court my vote and say we're not going to continue on with the mandates. I was a longtime supporter of Cindy Chavez when she ran for city council a quarter century ago. She's a very smart woman, very competent. I have no doubt that she'll be able to achieve a lot of what she wants to achieve. But I'm concerned she's on the VTA board, and I have a good friend who's about to lose his job because the board has insisted that the unvaccinated be terminated. I can't support that. Otherwise, I would be inclined to support Cindy. So those are some of the other races that I focused on. I did not vote for sheriff because I didn't know who the candidates were. I'm glad we're going to move on from Lori Smith, but I'm not sure who the next sheriff should be.
Thank you. And then Shane, you also voted, right?
I did, yes. And there were a couple of races at the state level that I was excited about. One was for controller. I supported Lonnie Chen. Lonnie has, I think, something like 4 Harvard degrees. He's a fairly young parent, lives here in Santa Clara County. So he's our hometown pick, if you will. And I think in a state when you have one party dominating, which we have, basically a full complement of Democrats running all branches of the state government, it's good to have in a watchdog role somebody who will actually be a watchdog and who has the intelligence to deal with the data and things that will be coming at them to keep everyone honest. And that would apply whether it's in a very Republican state. I think you'd want to have some kind of watchdog counterpoint, as you would in California. We need somebody keeping an eye on things there, and he's incredibly competent. And then the other statewide office was Attorney General. As I said, crime is one of the major concerns of mine. I've seen the quality of life deteriorate in our neighborhoods here. And that's because the pendulum, I feel, has swung too far in favor of the criminals And we have this, this happens from time to time. We're too harsh and then it swings the other way. And now I think we're too far the other way between Prop 4757, AB 109. And so I wanted to look at somebody who has worked with Republicans and Democrats and supported by people across the aisle. And that was Nathan Hochman, who's running for Attorney General. He's been a prosecutor before. I think we need some folks in office who, and this applied to the DA race here locally, who will be a balance to that pendulum that swung too far and be more willing to enforce our laws that keep our society functional and separate us from chaos, basically. And so I supported him, and then I supported locally. I supported Daniel Chung to bring that kind of change to the DA's office. I like Jeff Rosen. I know Jeff Rosen. I think he does a respectable job, although I feel he's moved too far to the left on the issue of crime, and so that's why I supported Daniel. Oh, I'm in District 6, and we don't have a council or supervisor seat up at the moment. But we did have other races that were up for. We're now part of my part of town is now part of Anna Esch's district in Congress and other things like that. Now, let's see, sheriff race, again, in keeping with that desire to have some more balance, I supported Kevin Jensen. He's experienced. I went to the forum for the sheriff's candidates and got to hear from each of them in person. And he was, I think, very balanced in his approach, being very fair to people, but at the same time, putting law enforcement front and center and the people of law enforcement, supporting them in a difficult environment that can be very frustrating for them when people are just let back out on the streets through a revolving door, seemingly. And there many are dangerous criminals. So I supported Kevin Jensen there. I thought there were two good candidates, actually. It was Bob Johnson and Kevin Jensen. Both seemed to bring different perspectives and to the table. And either one seemed like a good pick from my perspective. Yeah, so those are some of the main ones that I hit upon.
Do you mind if I ask, who did you vote for mayor?
Yeah, and that was a tough one for me. It wasn't really looking at I thought there were a couple of good candidates. That was my problem with that. And so, do I vote for the one, as I was saying, do I vote for the one that I think will get the most votes, or do I vote for the one that I aligned with the most? And I actually went with my local council member, Dev Davis here. I know Dev, I know Matt. Matt Mahan was the other person that I considered, and I respect and think will do a fantastic job and brings a fresh perspective because he's not a career politician, if you will. I think he would provide a lot more oversight for our dollars, he or Dev. And so, but I think Dev has a lot of practical solutions, and she has a little more experience at City Hall, knowing how to get things done there. So I leaned slightly toward Dev, and it was a problem of having, in my perspective, two good candidates, and not sure kind of which way to go on that.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, moving on to the next one then. We're working on this story about political mailers and ads.
Do you mind if I shared about voting? I did vote.
Oh, you did vote. I'm sorry, Gary. Yeah, go.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just talk about 2 or 3 candidates. One is for mayor, I felt like for voting for mayor was a question not of voting for something. It was almost like just sort of eliminating candidates that I just couldn't vote for, and then there was just one left. And Cindy Chavez, of course, everybody knows, comes with a lot of baggage. And I'm kind of offended by some of the ads that she's running on television, saying that she's she's like housed 14,000 homeless people by herself. And I go out and help with the homeless count, and I've worked at homeless shelters as a nurse. And I kind of feel like when you're saying those kinds of things and we only have 10,000 current homeless people, then why aren't you housing those homeless people? You've had 25 years as a career in this area as a politician and really not much to show for it. And so I know, like lots of politicians, they kind of make these sort of grand statements about taking credit for other people's work, and then also just continuing to define the problem, but not really focusing on solutions. And I put her in that camp. And so I know that she's a fairly likable character and a lot of people like her, but she's not really a solutions focused candidate. And that's pretty clear because she's had a lot of years to do things and she hasn't. The problems have just gotten worse. And then Deb Davis was kind of a write-off for me as well, because I've watched her record at City Hall and she's just voted against housing propositions consistently. And so she's got this sort of not in my backyard philosophy, and that just doesn't work with me. So that left me Raul, who is my current candidate, and Matt Mahan. And Raul, you know, he has been somewhat helpful, but there's lots of times that we reach out to City Hall. We have a good little community organization here, and we ask them to help us with something, and inevitably they want us to do all the work. They don't, it just seems like Raul's office is not that effective at getting things done. So based on that, I just felt like I eliminated him, and that left me with Matt. So I ended up voting for Matt, not because I necessarily agreed with everything that he had going for him, but mostly because I just didn't agree with all the other candidates. Also in District 3, we have a council seat open, and somebody had mentioned earlier talking with Omar Torres, and I spoke with him and a couple of the other candidates, and Omar definitely is head and shoulders above the rest. He's homegrown, and I just really supported him. And I also know his work because he's on our school board at Evergreen Valley Community College. So I know what he's all about, and I just trust that he'll get the job done. And then for assessor, I did not vote for Larry Stone because I think what people don't realize about that job is so much of the budgets of so many of the other pieces of the puzzle that run civic government, including education and in some cases health organizations, falls on the shoulders of that office. And Larry has been doing this thing where he gets the tax assessors, he gets the tax assessment on the homes, and then he's been putting money into these contingency funds. And he's always saying, well, it's because the sky might fall, the sky might fall. But I don't even know that it's his job to do that. And so I just realized that he's impacting people's lives probably in a very negative way. And I'm not sure that he has the business doing that. So I thought it was time for a change there. I think it's good to change politicians out. You know, they can go on and become consultants or do advisory work or sit on boards or whatever. But, you know, they usually get good stuff done in the first couple of years. So I'm excited about Matt. I'm hoping that he can get stuff done in his first couple of years. And then the only other one I want to mention is I did not vote for Zil Lufgren. I think she's a lovely person. But again, I just think she's been there a long time and it's probably just time for a change. So I guess I'm voting for the change candidates, but not consistently. I did vote for some of the incumbents as well. And in terms of sheriff, the last one I want to mention is that I voted for the person who was working in corrections rather than, because that person just seemed like they are an insider, but they have a lot of knowledge of what's going on the inside and may be able to make some reformations there. So I think it was Sean Allen who I ended up voting for sheriff. That's all. Thanks.
Gotcha. Thank you. And Carmen, just so I'm not missing anyone, you did not vote, right?
I'm like, okay, I'll have nothing to say on this one. No. Like I shared earlier, I'm still flushing it all out in my brain. I'm usually that person that waits till the last minute because I just like to hear all the last bits of everything before I make that decision. So, you know, for me right now, like I said, for the mayor, I've attended a couple of forums. I'm not truly impressed with any single individual. So that is unfortunate. And considering that we are one of the 10th largest cities in the US, and we have candidates that really don't resonate for everybody. And that's concerns me. District attorney, I'm definitely, that one I can tell you, I will go with Sajid. I've met him personally. I know, I've worked with him. I've seen him out when we've gone and protested, and especially against the new jail. He was there with us. He's always showing up for events that we have as a community. So I truly, truly am excited about him. And we do need someone new. Jeff Rosen is not, he definitely does not have my community's best interest at heart. And that is, when I'm saying my community, I'm talking about the African ancestry community. We make up about they keep changing this number, but about 2.6% of Santa Clara County, but yet we're 20% in the jail. So something is wrong. So I can't continue to support someone who's doing that. I don't have I think, oh no, I do. My district kind of switched with the redistricting. I'm now D25, but I get to keep my assembly member that I've had, which is Ash Kalra. So I'm super excited about that. I don't have anyone in city council. I'm District 8, and our district council doesn't have anything going on. The measures, I rely a lot on Ballotpedia and the League of Women Voters to give me, as much as possible, some unbiased information before I'll make those decisions on the measures. So I'll be reading those through myself. And like Vincente, I read, and I think others on this call too, I read a lot of the stuff that's sent to me because I really do want to make a very educated decision. And so that's where I stand right now. Who else did you ask about? I think that's the local ones, right?
Yeah, I think you covered the local ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And we're pretty short on time, but Alex, I think I noted that you wanted to respond to one of Gary's points. Can you do that in like maybe 30 seconds?
I can hold off. It's fine. I don't know if you wanted any debate and discuss. So
Ideally we would. We're pretty short on time, and I wanted to make sure I got at least one of these last two questions across for y'all.
You keep doing you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. So for this last one, since we're very short on time, maybe you can just answer whichever one is more applicable to your situation. So the first one is just, we're working on the story about political mailers and ads. So we want to know if any of you have received attack ads during this election season, and to what extent those ads factored in your voting decisions. And then the other one is just whether you're worried about misinformation or voter fraud this election cycle. So maybe let's start. Alex, you want to kick this one off?
I'll pass it on to someone else.
Gotcha. Okay. Don, how about you?
Yeah, so I have to say, as a former candidate, I was educated that misinformation is part of the game. People will attack you and with false accusations and the like. I did see an ad that I thought was deceptive. I won't mention the candidate because I can't remember what was deceptive. I get a lot of mailers. And one of the city council candidates had what I thought was a deceptive ad. But I won't mention names because I can't remember the specifics of the deception. But to me, it's just part of the game. And I would never cast a vote on the basis of a mailer. And I would suggest that most people should do more research into the candidates rather than rely on the mailers, because they tend to be deceptive as a rule relative to other sources of information.
Okay. How about you, Lisa?
I haven't received so much attack ads in the mail, but when I was doing my research to vote, if there were two candidates that I was equally interested in, if one was attacking another candidate, I was disinclined to vote for them. And I think that in general, misinformation is a problem in our elections throughout the country, and in a lot of other aspects of our life as well. And I really think that it's a problem, and that we should try to do something about it as much as possible, and try to get out monies, the expense of elections as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Eli, sorry to interrupt, but you mind if I go next because I have a hard stop at 1.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Great, thanks. I wanted to say that in terms of attack ads, I'm echoing what Don said. I just don't read them on principle. If I respond to them, it's just to check them myself. And I do worry about misinformation just because it was so prolific in motivating some of the recent political events that we've seen in the past few years. So I would hope that more people start to share that attitude toward attack ads and campaign blitzes like that, and critically think before they base those materials or incorporate those materials into their decision making. But we'll have to see how everything shakes out.
Gotcha. Thank you, Vicente. How about you, Gary?
In quick, no and no. I haven't received any in the mail, and I don't think that I'm not worried about voter fraud. And in terms of misinformation, I think I'll just echo what other people have said. And I just expect politicians don't necessarily always tell the truth and stretch things and take credit for things that they don't deserve credit for. So I think that's just par for the course. So yeah, I love what somebody else had said earlier. Read lots and read voraciously, because I think the solutions are in allowing the sand to settle.
Gotcha. Thank you. And how about you, Shane?
Yeah, along the same lines, I think caveat emptor is the watch phrase, buyer beware. Read lots, go to forums, all of those things are very helpful. I think attack ads, I mean, they're part of the landscape. I've seen some, not in the, particularly, I've seen only one in the races that I had to vote on, but my former boss, Johnny Camus, has been subject to several attack ads. And there's often, kind of coded, racial or ethnic attacks hidden in there. And that concerns me, because we should keep focused on the issues. And if you're going to do attack ads, I think they should be not attacks, they should be defining your opponent, but they should be accurate information. And a lot of them don't contain accurate information. I think that's a concern. And that's why it's incumbent upon us to do further research, kind of like with the misleading phrasing on the measure A. And yeah, so I'm not worried about widespread voter fraud. I am concerned that we don't keep our voter rolls up to date and clean, because there are ballots that are going to people who passed away or moved and things like that. And those, when you allow for ballot harvesting, which most states don't, but when you allow for ballot harvesting, there's a certain incentive built into that structure to bring back as many ballots as you can. And that, I think, opens the door to potential for fraud. And it's, like I said, I don't think it's widespread, but I think that we've seen races decided by 1 or 2 votes for city council or for mayor. So I think it is important that we keep our voter rolls clean and up to date.
Gotcha. Thank you. And Carmen.
Okay, so I am grateful that this election cycle, I got very few mailers. So for that, I'm super thankful. I actually don't watch television that much. I'm more of a streaming kind of gal. So thankfully, I am not seeing a lot of political ads, because that's not what I look at. So my algorithms don't give me that stuff. So I'm grateful for that. And for me, the ads and or the mailers don't factor in my final decision. Again, like I shared earlier, I'm going to do, in spite of what I get, I'm going to still do my due diligence and do my reading and do my research and really make that decision for myself, even if I'm generally vote along with my party, I'm Democrat. So generally, I'll say that, but I'm not a big proponent or supporter of, I didn't mean to say proponent, I'm not a big supporter of these ads that really the negative campaigning stuff. I think that that's not necessary. I don't even think it needs to be part of what we do. And I do agree with Lisa in the fact that we need to start looking at getting money out of politics. It has created a really ugly situation where those who have money are the voices that are heard and make the decisions, and those who don't, communities that don't, are not able to get their voices heard. So hopefully we'll see some changes happening there. In this, I am not worried about misinformation or fraud in any of the elections that are held in America. I know the last general election had a lot of unwarranted and untruth about voter fraud that surprised me. I'm actually from some of you may or may not remember, I'm an immigrant, I'm from another country, and I know what voter fraud is like. I know how that can run, and there's absolutely no way in America that would happen. So when I hear people say those things, they obviously have not experienced something different. And so it's also another way of harming communities that don't have a voice by preventing them from sending out misinformation. You know, many people talked about that earlier, misinformation that prevents people from really doing the due diligence that they need to do in order to be effective voters. And a lot of that, anything that we need to do as a society, it's on us as communities to make sure that we're working together well, and that will eliminate the need for that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. All right, well, we're over time, and I think we covered what we can today, so I really appreciate everyone's input on this. And I hope that next time, maybe we can present you with fewer questions so we can have a little bit of back and forth, because I think that discussion is it's helpful, and I appreciate the small but spirited discussion that just happened in the chat. So hopefully we can have more of that next time. Josh, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
Well, that's all. Thank you, Eli, for leading us through the discussion today. And thank you all again for sharing your thoughts and sentiments. You know, felt like we had a robust conversation, you know, and everybody, thank you for being respectful of everyone else and just being open to other perspectives and viewpoints. And that certainly goes a long way and adds to our discussion. So the next time we'll all meet again will be after Election Day. It will be again Wednesday, June 15th, again at noon. And yeah, Eli, thanks for that feedback. Maybe we can limit the number of questions to allow for more conversation and back and forth. But with that, again, thank you all for making the time. We appreciate your support and contributions, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
So Josh, is it
Have a
2
good
weeks?
one.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks or 1 week?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Wednesday, June 15th.
It'll
right,
actually
thank
be
you.
my birthday.
Oh,
Just
All
so
right.
you know.
Happy early birthday, Carmen.
Happy birthday.
We'll have to have our cake ready for that.
Yes.
We'll do that.
Bye.
Thanks, Shane, Don, Carmen.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Have a good rest of the week.